Well, welcome everybody to this workshop. So my name is Nate Tubbs. I work with Together Chicago, and my role there is called the Director of Civic Engagement. So one of the things I do is organizing this whole event called Building Blocks of Peace, and alongside many other people from other organizations who are a part of it. So just want to say welcome. I live on the west side. There's a little pocket called the Island. It's the southwest corner of the Austin community. It's the part that's south of the 290, north of Roosevelt, and east of Austin Boulevard. There's this tiny little area that they call it the Island. So that's where I'm from, and I'm going to share some pictures from my neighborhood today, so I want to give you that context as well. So the workshop today is titled By Us, For Us, and the Four Modes of Change. By Us, For Us, and the Four Modes of Change. So I said in my little commercial out there that most of us, we want to see some kind of change in our communities, but the way change happens can have devastating effects on communities, and it can have incredible effects on communities. And so the way we seek to make change really matters. And so this is a part of the organizing track of workshops. So last month, someone else did a workshop on organizing. This month I am. And in May, another leader is going to be doing another workshop on organizing, so you can hear from different voices. So I want to talk about these four modes of change. If any of you are familiar with the asset-based community development world, there's the Asset-Based Community Development Institute at DePaul University, and they teach a lot of the principles. And these are some of the key framings to help think about how does change happen. So we're going to talk about these four words. They're very short, very simple words, but they make very big difference in our neighborhood. So these four words are to, for, with, and by. So I'm going to walk through these four things and give you some examples of what these look like. So firstly, this is the to framing is when things are happening to communities or are done to communities. This is when governments or institutions or powers take their powers and make change happen to a community. All right, so I want to give you a couple examples. This is like if a government leader makes a decision about your neighborhood, but did not involve you in the process or the conversation. They come and make that change, but nobody was there at the table. Nobody knew it was happening, right? Maybe organizations do this sometimes, where a church or organization might deliver programming to a community that doesn't consider the context or the history of that community. But they feel like, oh, we're going to do this great thing, and they show up and they do this thing to the community. Another example is I'm going to give you an example of each of these in relation to doing your homework, okay? So let's think about doing your homework. This is when a teacher would solve a problem for a student that was too difficult for them without showing the process. It's like, oh, you have a problem with your homework? Okay, I'm just going to do it for you. I'll do it. And you didn't have any agency in it. All right, so this is when something is done to a community. I want to give you an example from my neighborhood, okay? So this picture right here, this is Roosevelt, and this is a street called Menard. This school right here is called George Rogers Clark Elementary, where my daughter attends. And we live just 2 blocks over this way. And when we moved to the neighborhood, this area right here, it was an open grass space. Nothing was there. And there were community members who for many years had tried to advocate for assets that would be placed there that would benefit the community. They had plans, they had ideas, all this kind of stuff. Now, I don't know if you can see what this is. This is a storage facility, okay? So shortly after I moved to the neighborhood, which was about 9 years ago, this property was sold, and despite the ideas of the community, this was done to our community. This storage facility was put there. Nobody was consulted in the neighborhood. People were upset about this. One of the individuals who had these ideas and plans lives in these houses right here. Now looks across his street at a storage facility rather than the ideas for what the community wanted. And that was a painful thing for a lot of people. Like, why did this happen? Nobody talked to us. This is just an economic thing, tax base growing kind of thing done by our aldermen, all right? So that's just an example when something is done to the community.
Go back to the other.
Go back? Oh yeah, and I can share this whole slide deck to you all if you'd like.
Okay.
So I see you taking those pictures. How about this? If anybody on the other side of this paper is the names of the people who had signed up for this workshop already. If your name or email is not on this list, can you write your email? Can you go around and ask, and just if anybody wants to do that? And then if you put your email there, I will email the slide deck to you. Okay.
Did they get rid of the alderman?
No. That's a great question. We're working on it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so I want to go to the next example. Yes? Oh, you want to switch the slides? Sure. Okay. Do you want to sit here or wherever you want to be? All right. I'll cue you when it's time, okay? How about that? I got a slides helper in here. This is good. All right. Okay, this next mode of change is when things are done for a community, okay? Next slide, please. So make some examples. This is when a government leader would complete a project for the community without including constituents. This can be similar to the first one in some ways, but I'm going to give you an example that'll differentiate it. Next one. This is maybe an organization delivering programming that perpetuates giver for receiver dynamics, okay? We are the giver, you are the receiver. We're doing this for you, and it perpetuates a dynamic of that posture. We're the giver, you're the receiver. This is for you, okay? And I'm not saying that these are all bad, but we have to weigh the pros and cons of some of these things, okay? The next example is your homework example, okay? Let's hit it. All right. This is when a knowledgeable student does homework for another student to gain their respect, okay? So I'm gonna help you do your homework, and I'm gonna feel really good that I helped do this for you. I'm the giver, you're the receiver, right? And some things happen this way. Some people call this the charity model, okay? And charities, it's not all bad. I'm not trying to say this is all bad, but there are other ways of doing things that can have different dynamics, okay? So you need to weigh some of that in your own context. All right, I'll give you an example from our neighborhood. This is the street we walk down to go to school every day with my daughter to drop her off. A number of years ago, the adjacent suburbs needed to increase their water main supply, and so they had this whole project, and it went right through our neighborhood. And it was meant to, increase sewer capacities and all this kind of stuff. And it was doing something that was for us and for other people outside of our community, that it dug huge ruts. They took down all our trees on this street because they had to. But then it did benefit us too. We didn't have any say in the matter. It was just kind of the powers that be doing things for the communities that they felt like, okay, we have to increase the load of these sewers and whatnot. And like, there's pros and cons to this, right? That, like, we got improvements. It was done for us. But it's also left some marks, It left some of my neighbors lost some big old trees. And now there's these little tiny ones growing back up. So anyways, this is something that was done for us by the experts, and we weren't necessarily involved in the process. Again, I'm not saying that was a bad thing, but it does hit a certain way when the powers that be do things, right?
Can I add on to that?
Yeah.
So that's part of like the north side. If you know the community of Chatham, which is on the south side, that floods all the time, those large pipes flow through Chatham that doesn't have the network system to hold all that water to get to the reservoir. So in the north side, only 4 out of 100 homes may flood during a heavy rainstorm, but in Chatham, 67 out of 100 floods, just because those pipes are flowing from the north side to the south side
Wow.
to get to the reservoir.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
very, very, very interesting.
are bad for others.
That's a great example. So they're trying to do something for some people, but it has residual effects
Right.
on other people. That's a great point. Yeah.
Wait, no,
I
it's
am, yes,
north-
but he's
it's
given
north-
a,
it's north-
yeah.
It's north of Chatham.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to keep moving to the next mode. All right. So this is the mode called with. So we had two things done to communities, things done for communities. This is things done with communities. Okay, look at this phrase, nothing for us or about us without us. I love that. Nothing for us or about us without us. We want to be a part of this. We want to speak into it. Come with us. Be alongside us. Let's work together. I'll give you some examples. A civic example, this would be a government leader collaborating with constituents to address the needs. Okay, I'm going to meet with you. I'm going to hear your perspectives on things. How can we address these things together? The next one, example, this could be a church organization coming alongside community institutions to achieve shared goals. So not in isolation, doing our own thing to the community, but how do we do it with other people in the community, okay? So the posture is, we don't want to move forward on something and leave other people behind. We want to be together and working together at the table. So I'll give you the homework example. This is a parent helping their child understand the homework concepts and completing it together, okay? I'm going to work with you on your homework. I'm not doing it for you, but I'm going to work with you on it so you can learn and get the support that you need. That feels a little better than things done to you, right? Or things done for you in some ways. All right, so I'll give you an example from my neighborhood. This property in 2018 was a vacant lot on the block where I live, 1100 South Mason block. And it was an empty lot. It was formerly a house there. It was condemned. It was knocked down. And then it just became an eyesore, weeds, cars abandoned, garbage, all that kind of stuff. And in 2018, the neighbors of our block, we started cleaning this block up, cleaning this space up. And we made a community garden. And then we partnered with some organizations who could help us take it to the next level. So we put in our part of the work, and they matched us with some funding and some support, some expertise to build a community space. It's called the Island Oasis Nature Play Garden. And so now it is a community managed public space that is on my block. And so we have meetings in this space. We do movie nights. We have our beat meetings with the police sometimes. We have our neighborhood association meetings. But this is an example of something that was done with the community. We couldn't have done it by ourselves. And these organizations could not have done this by themselves unless they were doing it to us, right? Okay? But it was a beautiful collaboration saying, let's do this together. We brought the community out, work days, all this kind of stuff. They brought resources and expertise, and it created something special that couldn't have happened otherwise. So that's an example of with. All right, and then we're going to get to the last. I can tell the whole story maybe another time, but it was there was a foundation that was funding nature play gardens for kids. So the back half of the garden is a nature play area, and the front half is kind of a multi-purpose seating area. And that's how the funding actually came, was it was a foundation that was funding nature play spaces in neighborhoods that lacked access to parks and play spaces for kids. Yeah. All right, so the last mode is by. By, and the key phrase, by us, for us. That was the title of this workshop. Let me give you some examples of by. All right, this is a civic example. This would be residents organizing and taking action to support each other and improve their community. So not waiting for the government leaders to do something for us, but saying, we can do this. We can do this ourselves. Next example, this would be a church organization recognizing and valuing the gifts of their community members and supporting their work. So it's not just what's the leader's ideas, perhaps, but what are the ideas of the community members, the neighbors, and how can we support them and come alongside them? And what can be done by them if they are given the opportunity and the vision to do it. In the homework example, this is a student developing the confidence and skills to complete their assignments and succeed by themselves, right? Developing the skill to do that. So I'll give you an example from my neighborhood of this. So this bottom picture is an event that we called Play Lot Nights, and it was created by people in the neighborhood for the kids of the neighborhood. Nobody else did anything for us. It wasn't created by anybody else. It was people from the neighborhood saying, we're going to host these things for our kids. We're going to activate the playground, open it up, because our school playground stays locked. Most days, it's locked up. The community can't use it. But community members said, we want to activate this space. We will work with the school to get it open and have some, fun programming in the summer. The top example is we have a youth program in our neighborhood. These are 12 to 15-year-olds from a neighborhood. These two individuals right here, they created a youth program, applied for some funding for it through the Safe and Peaceful Communities Grant, and we were able to do a fully resident-led neighborhood youth program. Nobody else did this for us. It was by us and for us. And so those are some examples from my neighborhood of these different modes of change. So we want to get to thinking about you. I want to help you think about your communities and what are the modes of change that you want to see where you are. So here's some key questions for you to think about. I'm assuming every one of you, because you're here today, you care about your neighborhoods, or you care about your neighbors, or the people that you minister to, or what have you. You care. And that's a beautiful thing. So that's an asset right there. People who care is an incredible asset. So here's some key questions to ask yourself. If you are thinking about organizing something, first question, what do you care enough about that you are willing to take action on? It's got to start there. It's not just what do you care about, because you care about a lot of things, but what do you care enough about that you're willing to take action on, okay? Because it's not going to go anywhere if you don't care enough to take action on it, all right? So here's some examples of things you probably care about. They can be places you care about. They could be issues you care about. They could be interests. So maybe you care about your block and you're thinking about organizing a block club. Maybe you care about cleaning up your community. Maybe it's supporting your local school, food insecurity, housing, youth programs, childcare needs, community safety, social isolation, or an affinity group. You want to get together people who care about bird watching or something, right? Think about this. What do you care enough about that you want to take action on it? Name that thing. And then the next question, who else cares about this that they would also take action? Because you don't want to do this alone. And you can't do by us if it's just by you, okay? It doesn't work that way. So if you want by us and for us, what do you care about? Because you're only going to stay in the work if you care about it. And then who else cares about it that they would want to take action? Okay, so ask that question next. The third question, what is the next smallest thing we can do? Don't start with what's the biggest possible thing we could do, because you're going to get bogged down in all. It's great to dream. You need to dream, think big. But you can get stuck in the dreams that never happen. Like that first example I told you about. There were great dreams that never ended up happening. They were huge dreams, which is amazing. But what was that next smallest thing that you could do right away? Because what happens is people will see that small thing and they'll say, oh, that's good. That's good. And that was a relatively small lift. And we did that. Okay, maybe we could lift something a little heavier, right? If you all work out, you can start at those lower weights. Try to lift the lower things so that you can build up the muscle of civic engagement, the muscle of the capacity of your organizing. All right, so that's the third question. So here's a 4-step process that an organization called Strong Towns, this is their 4-step process. I love it. It's very simple. It says observe. So humbly observe where people in the community struggle. Ask the question, what is the next smallest thing we can do right now to address that struggle? Number 3, act, do it. Do that thing, that simple thing, and do it right now. And then step 4 is to repeat the process. So you're going to do, what's that next smallest thing? Okay, get some confidence, build that confidence together. Okay, we did that small thing. Okay, let's go to a slightly larger thing, okay? Let's do that. And you're going to build that civic muscle, that capacity for people to act together and in step. All right, next one. So here's the fourth question. What methods of change are needed for the thing you care about? And what order are you going to look through these lenses, okay? Think of these 4 things as lenses, by, with, for, and to, okay? And I want to suggest that you look in this direction through those lenses, okay? So you want to, if somebody name something. If you thought of something while I was talking, what's something you care about? Somebody name one of those things. You care about your block. Okay. So how are you going to bring change on your block? Where do you start? You want to start with what can we do by us, for us? Start there, right? Then you want to say, what could we do if somebody came along with us? What else is possible? Okay, your block, you and your residents, you might be able to clean the block, but you might not be able to build new housing on your block. That you might need some help with that. You might need some width, right? So depending on what you want to see on your block, then you might want to move down these steps to see how do we get that thing that we need, that we want to change. Someone give another example. What's something you care about? Sorry, say it again? Healing trauma. Okay, so is there specific demographic or place that you want to do that?
Individuals impacted by like the gun violence and sirens, the helicopters here in the South Side.
And are you trained in that and you do that professionally? Wonderful. So people who are trained in that work, there's a lot of by you stuff you can do. If someone else maybe didn't have that expertise, maybe they'd want to work with you, right? Or maybe we have a desert of resources in our area. Maybe we need some help by some agencies to bring that service to a community. So you want to ask, what can we do first? Look, we've got an asset on our block. She's here. She's got that skill. Okay, that's the point of this, because when you start at this end, you're going to notice the assets you already have. If you start at this end, you're going to miss those assets. You're going to be looking right past them. So the core idea of this process is to discover the assets that already exist. What can we do ourselves? Can we do that thing? Well, actually, no, we don't have that expertise. Okay, who can come along with us to do that? And then you work your way down these, okay? So let's talk some scenarios. Who else has an idea of what's a change, especially if you're thinking of organizing, not just something you care about, but what would you like to see other people come alongside you and do together? Anyone have an example? Community garden. Wonderful. Yeah.
It's a food desert over there, and it's a lady I see that she had her stuff growing on her porch. So this year I said I'm gonna go knock on her door. Then I'm gonna go to the office. Start with somewhere to the office, and knock on her door, go to the office. One of them to get us together and see where we can plant a garden now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So it sounds like you've already started getting those. Who are those other people that care enough about it that would do that with you, right? That's beautiful. Now, maybe there's a point that you need some of those other lenses too, right? Like if you need property, or you need funds, or you need whatever else. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Who else has something that they care about, they want to see?
I feel strongly about having Bible clubs in the public schools.
Okay. So to do Bible clubs at schools. So, okay, let's see. Can you go back to the other one? So I don't think anyone else, you're not going to get help on the 2 side or these kinds of things, right? That's got to be grassroots, probably, you or others who care about that to show up and do that. All right. What else? Anyone else have a example on their mind? What's a change you'd want to see?
Can I go back and ask you a quick question?
Sure.
If we have, if we're allowed to go into the public schools with Bible clubs, how do we reach the church? It seems that the church would want to get involved. The principals want us to come in, but we don't have the people that are willing to be equipped to go in. That's just saying.
That's what you're saying, you're experiencing in your context? Mm-hmm. I don't know the answer to that question, or if there is an answer. But I think the idea of looking for assets is a good one. Does this thing that I care about exist already somewhere around me? If it doesn't, am I the one to start it? Who else cares about it enough that they would work with you on that? I think it's those questions. but there's not like a one answer of like, oh, you're just instantly going to get all these churches involved, right? I think a big part of this is like sharing your vision in a way that other people are aware of your vision so that they could join your vision, right? And I know that you're doing that. I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying that's in order to just discover those other people who care about that same thing. Yeah. Can someone give me I'm sorry. Can someone give me a time check? Where are we at on time? It doesn't seem right, is it? Okay. All right. Thank you. A little bit. Okay. Go ahead.
But with the by you, with you, and for you, to you, I listened to Shelley, and I was thinking, how can we incorporate that into the school, into our community, into our CAPS meeting? With what she was saying about the trauma, the gun violence. And then I listened to Renee. So now if I can partner with Renee and on the vacant lots, put community gardens. So when you're hearing things, it's working, is like value, who can I work with to get this done? Yeah. So I'm kind of trying to put each one in when I hear everyone different scenario, how to bring that to my community. Right. Putting Bible clubs in school. Now how can I support that to bring that into our school? Bring it to there. So getting a chance to hear kind of put you in every situation. Who can you by us, with us, for us, and to us? So I'm trying to put things in that perspective.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think it hopefully helps us all realize like we each have a role to play. There's things that you can do as a neighbor and a resident that no one else can do for your block. Like the alderman can't do it for you. They can't. And if you're waiting for them to come over the hill and rescue your block, you're probably going to be waiting for a while, right? Like it's true. And I've been to a lot of meetings. When I first started showing up to meetings in my neighborhood, there was a lot of meetings where people would show up with their frustrations, show up with the complaints. Okay, the police aren't doing enough. Alderman's not doing enough. The school's not, whatever it is. But rarely was there that conversation of like, what can we do? What's our part to do? And then how do we together then ask those other entities to do the part that they need to do, right? Because there's things we can do, there's things they can do. Let's do our stuff, and then let's together collectively ask them to do their part. One example of that is after we did that community garden project, we built some momentum to where our aldermen and other people noticed, oh wow, like these people worked together and did this. And we restarted our neighborhood association. And because that got off the ground, then we had a collective voice when we needed to ask for something. So there were things we had to do by ourselves. But then when it came time to say, we need you to do something for us, we had a collective body of people that they had seen a track record from. They said, you mean business because you've been putting in the work, right? And then gave us a greater ability to be heard on those requests. So, Mark, I saw your...
I was just wondering if that first meeting should also be seen as part of the process. So instead of like shutting people down or not listening fully, by writing and allowing the process to really hear people all the way. I think that may be a challenge when we set forth a model and then we say, this is a good model, you all do that, instead of listening to where they're coming from. Yeah. And letting that out. And that's good. That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah. And I think when people, sorry, did you want to say?
I just wonder, how do you get them to come to the meetings?
Oh, man. If I knew the answer to that, we'd be... Yeah.
20 people will come to the meetings.
I know.
You're doing a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's a... Yeah. Food, yeah. I know that feeling and that struggle, and it's so hard to be in those spaces and to not go to the deficit thinking of look at who's not here versus look, you just said it. That's pretty good. Look who is here. It's so hard because you want more people to show up. You want more people to get involved. But if your mind goes towards the deficit of what we don't have, then you might miss what you do have. Look at the assets that are in this room. 20 people in a room, there's a lot of assets in that room. If you name them, if you call them out, if you recognize them. Did you want to say something? Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. So it's so easy to default back into this like deficit thinking. Look at all the things our community doesn't have. Look at the people that aren't showing up. But I would say this too. And to Mark's point about listening, when people are sharing the complaints and the deficits and all this, try to think about what's the value underneath that. That's the reason they're saying it, right? What do they care about that's underneath that complaint? Because if you're complaining about something, you probably care about something that's causing that complaint, right? Like you want more safety. So the police aren't doing their job is the complaint. Okay, maybe, but it sounds like you care about having a safe community. And you name the value that they're not saying the value, they're saying the complaint, but you're trying to find the value underneath it. And then you can say, oh, you care about that? Well, look, over here, he cares about that too. And so I know it's hard, but try to hear the complaints, hear the deficits, and try to think what's the value underneath that. And if enough people share that value, now you've got some people who can do some things together, okay?
Can I share
Yeah.
some resources? I'm not sure if some of you all are interested in starting 501c3s, but I saw you made mention of the Fall University.
Yeah.
A lot of the universities like UIC, Northwestern, etc., has programs where they work with you. I'm going to be transparent because I love sharing resources. Northwestern helped me start my foundation. I didn't do any of the articles in corporation, looking online, trying to figure this stuff out. Northwestern has students that will help you, walk you through the entire step. You pay the first $50. You fill out for the short form or the long form, and they do everything else. They get your legal forms and everything set up, so we don't have to walk some of this stuff by ourselves. Utilize these universities that are in our community. The Polsky Center has an entrepreneur hub there. They have a lot of great resources too. That's through University of Chicago. I have a grant that I've gotten from Northwestern where we're looking at the benefits of different healing modalities, how it can help us offset some of the gun violence and things that we're dealing with, again, through a university. So utilize the universities. It's not just your community, it's not just your alderman, it's like a collective. So be open to networking. A kid can teach a mother how to be a mother, so anybody can learn from anybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's great. All right, I want to share a few concluding thoughts, and if there's any other comments or questions, they'd be welcome. I want to read this quote by Lao Tzu. It says, "Go to the people, live with them, learn from them, love them. Start with what they know, build with what they have. But with the best leaders, when the work is done, the task accomplished, the people will say, 'We have done this ourselves.'" That's a beautiful quote about by us, for us. It does something special that those other modes can't quite do. As I said earlier, change can cause great pain to communities, and you've probably seen that. But change, when it's done by us and for us, when the task is accomplished and the people say, "We have done this ourselves," it builds that civic muscle. It builds that pride. It builds that belief. It's called collective efficacy. That's the research term about this. And there's data and studies about this, that neighborhoods and places that they measure for collective efficacy. It means the belief that we can change and make a difference here. When a neighborhood has that belief of collective efficacy, they are safer, they are healthier, and they are a place where people feel like they belong and that they are cared for. And that's what we all want, right? That's the kind of place I want to live in, right? And so this is the kind of thinking that we want to think about with by us and for us. So by us, for us, it builds collective efficacy, it strengthens civic muscle, and it centers residents with faithful presence. We were talking about faithful presence earlier. That only happens when those people who live there or who are closest to the ground in those communities when they are involved with it in this mode, they're at the center of the picture. We're not centering the government or the institution or whatever else that's going to come and do that for us. No, you're centering the community, and you're building that muscle, that civic muscle that's so important. So, okay, the real last slide is just my contact information. And again, I will email you all as well. If we have a couple more minutes, we can ask any other questions. But I just want to say thank you all for coming to my workshop. And, oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I would love to talk about any of this kind of stuff. One of the things that I'm doing with both Building Blocks of Peace and with Together Chicago is trying to support local leaders in their neighborhoods, block club leaders, neighborhood associations, things like that. Congregations who want to say, we want to be a part of the fabric of our community. What does that look like? And trying to provide support to people who really want to think deeply about being invested in their place. And I would just love to talk more with any of you about that. So that's all that I have. I thank you very much. And I'd love to take, if there's any time for questions, we can do that. Yeah.
Do you have access to any reliable grant writers? That, I think, is a hard thing to come by for some of the
For sure.
organizations.
For sure. I don't necessarily, with Together Chicago, we do have staff that work on grants. I think there are some good resources out there. So my sister here and I, we were both a part of a program called the Chicago Peace Fellows, and they try to plug people in. Yes, so 24, 21, I was 23, yeah. So
I was 23.
and Tony, who is out here, is a part of it. And anyways, there's some great programs like that where it's curriculum based, but then they're trying to connect people into those kinds of opportunities. They're always sharing resources about grants and.
Go through the program in order to get access to the grant writer?
Well, that's a great question. I can't say specifically that it's access to grant writers. So your specific question, I can't say that I have access to grant writers that I could say, here you go.
Tell somebody if you have
talk
voices
to
that
we need to talk to my husband because they're working through that process with someone now.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I definitely will get your information.
Yeah.
There used to be donors foreman. I don't even know if they're in existence anymore downtown. And they would take you through classes, learn how to write.
Their name changed. It don't come to my mind.
Okay. I would guess a lot of the programs that have been featured too. So I know My Block, My Hood, My City is trying to help block clubs get funding. There's even the Hey Neighbor campaign and different things. People who are here today trying to help other people get funding. There's a program called Community Leadership Fellows where they're trying to do training for this. So there's a lot of people asking that same question. I think let's maybe talk more.
What you guys were involved in?
It's called the Golden Institute, and they're funded through the Partnership for Safe and Peaceful Communities. And that is if you want to talk micro grants, this is a really good micro grant, meaning you could be a really small organization or a block club, and you can apply each year for between $1,000 and $10,000 to do something in your community. So some people use it for a block party. Like I said, we used it for a youth program. We've applied again this year to fund our youth program. So just remember I was saying start with the next smallest thing? This is a great next smallest thing because it's just a little bit of money where you can do something and build that.
Did it go to staff? How did you use the money?
It goes to no staffing. We don't pay anybody for running it. We stipend the youth and we pay for the other stuff like food or whatever other activities, things like that.
Repeat the name again.
The Partnership for Safe and Peaceful Communities.
They just finished their grant.
It's a February, March thing, but you need to get on your radar for the future because if you're a block club or a small organization, it's as the paperwork goes, it's the simpler side of grants. It doesn't take a ton of work. Whereas like the higher the amount of money, there's a lot more reporting and all this stuff you have to do. So, yeah.
I'd like to put in a small plug for this is the third. Next month is the third leg for organizing.
That's right.
We hope that you sign up for it because I'm going to take you through an experiential learning process where we will do just this. We will talk about putting your expertise into play and we're going to get into how do we deploy and taking collective action.
Yes, love it. Thank you, Phil. I meant to say that you were teaching the next workshop. So this is Minister Phil Perquette. He's teaching part 3 of the organizing track. So thank you, Phil. Appreciate that. All right, it's probably time to jet. Is that right? I can't tell by that thing, but let's call that a wrap. And thank you all for being here today.